Have you ever wondered how embroidered patches are made? I'm here to show you. One of the most popular is how to make embroidered hat patches. Obviously, people are wanting to know how, and I'm here to show you step by step. The method that I use is beginner friendly. All you need is a single needle machine, and it's super easy to do once you get the hang of it. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Shelby. I run a small at-home embroidery business, and I'm also creating content to educate others so that they can do the same. I also love crafting in my spare time, so if you like crafts, stick around. This channel will be full of different crafts and tutorials and embroidery business content. If you'd like to support my channel, I will leave a link down below, and as a thank you, I will provide you with the file for the exact patch that I'm going to be making today. You can make it as many times as you want to practice on, do different materials, things like that, and play around with it. This is only going to be available for my YouTube viewers as a thank you for being here and watching this video. So let's get straight into it. Let's start off with the materials that you're going to need for this project. As for stabilizer, you're going to need to start off with a tearaway. And then I have two options for you for a water-soluble stabilizer. The first is just your typical water-soluble. It looks like a thin fabric. It just melts away with water. And then the next is a plastic water-soluble stabilizer, but you don't actually even need to use water for this. Once the satin border is done around the edge, you can just pop it out of this. So whatever you have, if you're just doing one patch, a 4x4 hoop is plenty enough. Sometimes when you start doing more, you can batch them. You can make something really great. So our first step is going to be to get our material for our patch cut out to the exact size that we need it. This allows you to minimize the waste of the material you're using. So first, we're just going to get some tearaway stabilizer hooped. So the patch I'm going to be making today is about 3.5 by 2 inches. So I'm going to cut out a piece of my fabric and add about 1 inch to the height and width. So for this one, I'm going to cut out 4.5 by 3. Once I have my material, I'm just going to float that on the hoop and go trace our cut line on the machine. We're going to do a trace. Make sure that that needle is on the material the whole time. And if you've added 1 inch to the height and width, it should be totally fine. The color for this doesn't matter because we're going to be cutting the stitches anyways, so none of the thread will be showing. Pop that out of your hoop and you can just cut right on those stitches. So you're actually popping the stitches. Make sure you're not going any smaller though and going into the center of the patch or your border might not cover. This allows you to be so precise and ensure that you won't have any of the edges of the material sticking out from your satin border. So you can just take off any of the thread that's left kicking around, and that tearaway is just garbage. Now we have our perfect cut patch. Now that we have our patch perfectly cut out, it's time to run a placement stitch and baste our patch right onto those lines. So your patch will be in the perfect spot to embroider. Make sure that it's directly lined up with the stitches. Now is when you're going to hoop up your water-soluble stabilizer. I'm going to use the plastic one today to show you how you can pop it out. So I'm just going to cut this to the hoop size. I'm using my regular embroidery hoop. I will tighten it as much as I can, tighten it with a screwdriver, and then put a T-pin along the long edge on both sides so that it doesn't pull through. The magnetic hoop though is strong enough that you don't need to do any of that extra stuff. Make sure that it's drum-like. Now again, the color of the placement stitch doesn't matter because you won't be seeing this. You'll see that the next stitch to run is the exact same size and shape, and that will show us where we're going to place our patch. I'm going to put some basting spray on the back and secure it down. There we go. Place it exactly along those stitches. Now, my secret to getting a really sturdy patch is to actually sandwich 2 pieces of cutaway onto the back of the hoop, and then I run a zigzag or an applique stitch around to hold the layers of the sandwich together. This is the perfect opportunity to use some of that wasted cutaway that's in your scrap bin. I never throw out large scraps, so I'll just go over to my bin, grab a piece of cutaway, fold it in half, and then tape this to the bottom side of the hoop. And I'm gonna flip my hoop over and take that doubled up layer of cutaway and just tape it on the back. If you have painter's tape or masking tape, something that comes off easily. That will be perfect because you just need to hold it down until that zigzag stitch runs. There we go. Now we're at the point where I would change whatever thread you have on to whatever the color of your satin border is going to be. This will be close to the edge of your patch, and you don't want any crazy colored thread peeking through. We are going to run this zigzag stitch. Once we run this zigzag or sandwich stitch, you can actually cut off the excess cutaway as close as you can to the stitches without actually cutting the stitches. And make sure you don't poke through your water-soluble stabilizer. All right, as you can see, we have a perfect zigzag holding that patch down. Now we can flip to the back, take this tape off. There we have it. Now we're all ready to go and do the inside of the patch. Now that our fabric is totally secured, you can go ahead and run whatever you're going to do on the inside of the patch. I find that the zigzag holds it steady enough that you don't need to run your border before you do all of your inner work. Go ahead and change up your threads to whatever you want for your particular design. Now that we have everything done on the inside of our patch, it's time to just stitch the satin border and then we'll get to finishing. I just went through and trimmed up. Our patch is done. As you can see, it's almost popping out itself anyways. So all you have to do is push on it and you have a patch that you did not need to cut around the stitches at all. So easy, so thick and durable, no puckering or wrinkling within the patch. And I love this method. The last thing we have to talk about is finishing. If you did the plastic method, you could take some water to just get any of the extra plastic bits out of the edge. If you did the other water-soluble stabilizer, I usually just take a Q-tip and go around until the patch pops out. Then you're gonna wanna let it dry for however long it takes. If the patch is really wet, I usually let it dry under my heat press, not on, just with some pressure so it dries flat. But once it's dry, all you do is take your lighter, quickly singe around the edges to lock in that border, and you're finished. Then it's ready to be sewn on or heat pressed on to whatever you want. Let me know if you have any questions. I will try and leave all of the links below. Hello, this is Shelby from the future. I made all the patches with all the different materials I mentioned so that I can show you how they turn out. So first we have our polyester twill, which I showed you guys. And then we have our cotton, one piece of cotton fabric basted onto 2 layers of cutaway for the top, craft felt, 2 layers of craft felt. This is our faux leather vinyl, just 1 layer. And then this is our heat transfer glitter vinyl, ironed onto 2 layers of cutaway. All right, so with all of these patches, I used the exact same method, 2 layers of cutaway on the back, and the exact same process. Now with the super twill, I did the plastic stabilizer, and then with all 4 of these, I just did the regular water-soluble stabilizer. They're all thick, stiff. You don't need to iron any adhesive onto the back to make them stiff. They're already perfect. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel. If you want to get this file for this exact patch, I'll leave a link below. I will upload it in a zip folder with all of the different embroidery machine extensions. If you don't see your specific extension that you need in that zipped file, just send me an email and I will gladly get that to you. Thanks everyone.